We all understand how grip works. Soft stuff, grippy. Hard stuff, slippy, right? I thought that too, until I discovered that's not really what's happening at all. So to find out what's actually going on, I built a test rig and ran over 1,000 experiments, and what I found completely changed how I think about grip. This video is sponsored by PCBWay, but more on that later. The idea is simple. Put something on a surface and then tilt it until it just starts to slide. A bigger angle should mean more grip or static friction. I started by 3D printing some test tiles out of different materials that have a range of different stiffnesses, and at first the results were mostly what I expected. I measured the hardness of each tile and ordered them from hardest on the left to softest on the right here. And apart from the occasional dip, as the materials get softer, the breakaway angle increases, pretty much what you'd expect. But then I thought I'd change the actual surface the material was trying to grip to see what effect it might have. My first test was on a piece of wood laminate flooring, then I changed to MDF. And while the numbers shifted a bit, the overall pattern still made sense. Then I switched to textured PEI and smooth PEI, and suddenly the results stopped agreeing. And that's when things really went off the rails. When I tested on a mirror, the whole pattern completely broke. Yes, softer materials do generally offer more grip, but it's clearly not the whole story. Something else must be going on here. Surely the main thing I'm changing with the surfaces is the texture interacting with the material. And that's when I realized I'd been thinking about grip completely wrong. I'd been thinking about grip as a property of the material, but the results were showing something different. Grip isn't just about the material, it's also about how that material interacts with different surface textures. Even surfaces that look smooth to us usually aren't. There's almost always texture there, even if you can't see it. I wanted to see that interaction between the material and different surfaces more clearly, so I tried looking at the data in a completely different way. Instead of comparing materials, I flipped the data around and looked at each material across different surfaces. And once I looked at it that way, the pattern changed again, especially when we get to the softer materials. I'm still showing the materials from hardest to softest, but now each chart is a single material, comparing how it behaves on different surfaces. And at first, nothing too surprising. For the harder materials, the order stays fairly consistent. But as soon as the materials get softer, something strange starts happening. And this is where my assumptions really fell apart. The order keeps changing. The best surface depends on the material. So there isn't even one surface that always gives the most grip. It changes depending on what material is used. I suppose this is just like the way your trainer feels amazing on one floor, but terrible on another. So the idea of a single grippier surface completely falls apart. At this point, I could see that grip wasn't about finding the best material or the best surface. It was about the combination. But I still didn't understand why. Something fundamental was still missing. Now, for these experiments, I 3D printed all the test tiles, but of course this idea applies far beyond just printed plastics. If you want parts made from a much wider range of materials, aluminium, stainless steel, brass, nylon, ABS, resins, flexible materials and more, our video sponsor, PCBWay, is a great place to get those ideas actually made. The process is pretty simple too. You just upload your design file, choose the material and process you want, and they handle the manufacturing for you. They don't just offer different materials either. PCBWay uses lots of different manufacturing methods like 3D printing, injection molding, laser cutting, and CNC machining. So whatever you're designing, you can usually find a way to bring it into the real world. Big thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. And now let's get back to the experiment, because this is where things started to make a lot more sense. Before going any further, I needed to make sure the way I was testing grip was actually reliable. Because if this part was wrong, none of the results mean anything. And this nearly ruined the whole experiment. The rig itself is actually pretty simple. A hinged board tilted by a stepper motor driving a lead screw, controlled by an Arduino and a DIY button box. That meant I could control not just the angle, but how fast that angle changed, keeping everything consistent. The test tiles sit in the bottom of a weighted sled that was always ballasted to exactly 1 kilogram, no matter what tile was used. I actually had to redesign the sled after realising that at higher angles, my original design was tilting, skewing the results. I realised this after more than 600 tests, which meant throwing away a huge chunk of data and starting again, which was honestly pretty painful. The redesigned sled had a much lower centre of gravity, and the tipping problem disappeared. Surfaces were cleaned regularly, and tests were rotated so one material wasn't always run first, just to avoid accidentally biasing the results. I also monitored the ambient temperature at all times to make sure it stayed consistent. With the rig finally behaving properly, I could focus on the thing I actually wanted to compare, the tiles themselves. All the tiles shared the same geometry, and each one was printed solid, so the only thing changing was the material itself. I used a wide range of materials, most of which were supplied specifically for these tests from different manufacturers. The PA12CF came from Insulogic, TPU was from Sunlu, PLA from G-Tech, Moreflex from BQ, PIBA from Symbatron, and I bought the TPU Air from Seriatech, which is a material that allows you to change the hardness just by adjusting the print temperature, which is pretty cool. For each material, I printed 2 tiles, giving me 4 test surfaces: smooth, rough, blocks, and ribs. Every combination was tested multiple times, which, with the complete rerun after changing the sled, added up to more than 1,200 individual runs. And once all that data started coming in, one thing kept bothering me. If grip was really just material and surface, then why do tyres even have tread? Every material had already been tested with these different tread patterns, so I separated the results out to see what tread was actually doing. Intuitively, you might think more tread should mean more grip, like the tread on the sole of a shoe. But if that's the case, why do racing cars use slick tyres? And then if smooth is better, why do normal road tyres have tread at all? So I went back to the data and compared smooth tiles against block tread. On some surfaces, tread helped, exactly what I expected. But then the pattern started shifting. Sometimes blocks made almost no difference. Sometimes they gave more grip. And sometimes smooth was clearly better. Which means that tread isn't simply changing grip by doing something like adding or removing contact area. It's changing how the load spreads through the material, which changes how the contacting material actually behaves against the surface. And that made me realise something important. The material wasn't just sitting on the surface, it was changing shape against it. On rough surfaces, that contact behaviour means that softer materials can press into all the little peaks and valleys instead of just sitting on the tops. More of it is actually touching, and that makes it harder to slide. Softer materials can deform enough to follow the surface. Harder ones mostly ride on the high points. And suddenly this explained why different surfaces performed the way they did with different materials. Some of the softer materials are deforming into the rougher surfaces more effectively and mechanically interlocking with the texture. When we add tread blocks, the same load is now being applied through smaller regions. Of course, the load never changed, just the way it was applied. So grip isn't just about what 2 things that touch are made from and their shapes. It's also about how much they deform when they touch. So what about the mirror? With what we know so far, these results still make no sense. How do we explain how 2 relatively smooth surfaces seem to stick together so well in some cases? Well, it turns out that the mechanical interlocking that we discovered isn't the only mechanism at play. When 2 surfaces get very close together, their molecules actually start interacting at a microscopic level. This is adhesion, and it's the same thing that helps your silicone phone case grip onto smooth surfaces. It's microscopic sticking where surfaces touch. Of course, this molecular adhesion varies depending on the chemistry of the materials and the surfaces, which explains why 2 materials with the same measured shore hardness, like PIBA 85A and TPU 90A, can behave so differently, especially on smooth surfaces. On rougher surfaces, mechanical interlocking tends to dominate, while on smoother surfaces, molecular adhesion becomes more important, but they're both just different ways the contact can behave. So now I have three things affecting grip: the material stiffness, the surface texture, and the contact behavior. But the whole thing still didn't click until I looked at it like this. This was the moment that everything finally snapped into place. Because none of these factors act on their own. Change one, and the others change too. And once I saw it like this, suddenly every weird result started making sense. The mirror, the tread patterns, everything. Looking back, I realised I'd been isolating different parts of the same system without even meaning to. Changing materials changed how stiff the contact was. Changing surfaces changed what the material was trying to conform to. And changing tread changed how the load spread through the material, which changed how it deformed. And that's why there isn't a single answer to the question, what's the grippiest material? Grip isn't a property. It's a relationship. And that is the key idea. Now, obviously, there are other things that affect grip in the real world: temperature, speed, load, moisture. But here's the important part. These other variables don't change the basic idea. They just change how this triangle behaves. Temperature changes how materials deform, which changes both material stiffness and contact behavior. Load changes how much the materials deform, and speed changes how they behave while deforming. Everything still runs through the same system. And now suddenly, tyres make sense. Not because they're magic, but because they're balancing the system. Racing slick tyres maximise contact when conditions are predictable, letting the rubber interact with the surface as consistently as possible. Road tyres use tread because real roads aren't predictable. Water, debris, temperature changes. They aren't chasing maximum grip in perfect conditions. They're balancing the triangle to achieve the best average grip level when things are unpredictable. So instead of asking, what's the grippiest material, the better question is, what material, on what surface, with what contact behavior? And this is still only the beginning. We haven't touched on dynamic friction, heat build-up, or what happens when things start moving. That's a whole other layer that'll have to wait for another video. But drop me a comment if that's something you'd like to see. Speaking of which, I actually explored how different flexible materials behave when it comes to energy return in another video. If you like this video, then go and watch that next. For now, I hope that this video has helped to show that grip isn't simple, but it's not random either. If you understand the core physics at play, it's possible to make sense of what's going on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.